you can withdraw a few thousand, 20,000, 50,000, or whatever, it depends on luck of the person. That a person sits outside the ATM, somebody goes inside, his card doesn't work, this good Samaritan tries to help the person, I will help you. Now what is your PIN? Put the PIN, sorry, it doesn't work. The machine is bad. This fellow takes his card, goes off, that fellow takes out that matchstick out of the slot, puts another duplicate card, withdraws money. This is what had come in the Bangalore newspapers. A gang was operating, and it's still operating. Now, if we are having ATM cards, probably the farmers will be the last one to use it, because the fellow will get maximum cheated. Today, even the Kisan credit cards, whatever in the present form, is something, an instrument of making the farmer largely indebted. Perplexed. You are surprised at my statement. Such a beautiful thing given to the farmer as a Kisan credit card. He can go withdraw money at any time from the bank, and you say that it's not a proper instrument. Yes, it's not. Field surveys in my institute, I had gone for the field survey. The farmer goes to the bank. The bank clerk tells that you get 37,000 rupees on this card. What do you want to do? Kotpidi. Give it. And he withdraws 37,000 rupees at the time of sowing. 7,000 he buys seeds, fertilizers, this, that. Remaining 30,000, one color TV, clothes for the children, one cycle or motorcycle or whatever it is. 30,000 debt is incurred. 37,000 is over. He comes to weeding or harvesting. He doesn't have money. Goes to the money lender, borrows it, and gets into the debt there too. Now, if the credit card was meant to give money in installment as and when needed, probably it would have been compelled by the banks. And bank clerk, it is very easy. For him, lot of work is saved. And that's the reason why they do it. I ask the bank fellows, why do you do it? Why don't you tell him? Sir, again and again that fellow comes, tirga bartara, dhale tintare. Why the hell that fellow should come all along? Now, the increased rural credit would have increased indebtedness. Increased indebtedness will have increased distress. And increased distress will have the farm sector not performing. I would not say that reforms were totally sidetracked. My earlier two speakers have clearly indicated that we'll be able to do well as far as indirect tax revenues are concerned. As far as market strengthening is concerned, budget is quite positive. And therefore, I would not say that reforms are totally sidetracked, but then he was not able to specifically say that here GST will be applicable from April 1. He has to postpone it. He had to get a negative list so that the base of service tax is increased. Certainly there are a large number of issues in application and the governance of service tax. And these issues will be sorted out. I remember, and thanks to you, sir, I remember 1991 budget of Professor Manmohan Singh as finance minister. That particular thing has gone now. Those days, for 5-7 days, no budget was complete without a share or a shairi. Something or the other, the finance minister, if he is not a shair, also has to get from somewhere and put it in the budget. Without that, budget was not complete. At that time, the first 1991 budget, he said, खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि खुदा बंदे से पूछे बता तेरी रजा क्या है. Now, खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना, which means make yourself so strong that even the God has to ask you what I have to do with you, has to take your permission to do so. I think the travelogue of the budgets for the last decade does not necessarily tell us that we did not walk on the path which he had traced. We did. but the walk was not as steady as it should have been. If it was to be steady, we should have had more than 9% growth rate sustained, or at least 8.6% sustained. We would have had the unemployment rate under control. We would have had inflation rate quite in control. We would have had our fiscal deficit to about 3 to 4%. And please, my youngsters, young friends, remember, wiping out fiscal deficit is something not taught in public finance. You have to have certain fiscal deficit in order to have development expenditure. The first lesson in public finance is difference between public finance and private finance. In private finance, you must wipe off your deficit, whether it is revenue or fiscal. But in public finance, you have to retain, because if you have to grow, you must invest. If you have to invest, you must borrow. And for the borrowing, you have to incur certain level of fiscal deficit. That level has to be capped. And that cap depends on the strength of the economy, the resilience of the economy, how much it can sustain. I must thank you all, because you had given me a lot of opportunity to think quickly and talk about it. And at the end, let me tell you that that thing was here. I forgot that when I put my hand in the pocket, it was in the pocket. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for those insights. Now, let me introduce you to the next speaker of the evening, Mr. Anoosh Madonna. He is currently the Assistant Vice President, Investments Counselor at Citibank. In his earlier career, he served as a sales manager, bank assurance at ICICI Lombard. Later, he worked as Citigold Wealth Manager at Citibank for more than 2.5 years. He then joined ASK Wealth Advisors as a senior advisor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Anoosh Madonna.
Everybody. In fact, it was great to see all of you presenting there, and couple of the colleague fellows from ENY and Dr. R.S. Deshpande has presented it really well. I would not get into many of the details because I know for last 2 or 3 hours, whatever that you've been listening, most of the things are automatically out. I will just simply present you certain aspects, which few of them have been covered, show you the data points that how exactly the numbers look like on the fiscal as well as the subsidy fronts, and then present you certain analysis of various sectors and all. So just to start off with it, what exactly was the expectation of the budget? It was how we can revive the growth in the economy, right? How we can enable investment into infrastructure, and then how we can bring the fiscal prudence so that all our deficits, be it the fiscal, be it the current account and all, how. As a finance minister, I think as a job of an accountant, my job is first to get my balance sheet in act and see that whether my finances are in order or not. And that's what I think Pranab Mukherjee had done. So what exactly was the middle ground? A little bit of consolidation through increase of taxes, giving certain form of subsidies, bringing in more reforms, be it on the tax, which, of course, there are many issues, people saying, contradicting that whether those GAR, APA, transfer pricing should be there or increase in the tax and all, whatever. And hoping that at least my economy should grow at 7.6. And as, the previous speaker pointed out that, it's only a hope that in a linear graph, my economy should grow by 7.6. So the 5 key main focus areas of the budget were basically investment. How investment? To bring in more transparency in the APA, the Advanced Pricing Agreement, to introduce the Rajiv Gandhi Equity Savings Scheme, so that the broader net of the, investors can be brought into investing into the markets, proposing, allowing the QFIs to access Indian corporate bond market, proposing to move a host of financial sector reforms, which is the banking, PFRDA, insurance, and all. Agriculture, which has been, as Dr. Deshpande was also saying that, as and when the trough of agriculture has come, so is the GDP, as and when the peak of agriculture has come and all. So I think he brought a few of them by investing or increasing the allocation towards the Rashtriya Krishi Vikas. I think if you look at the budget document, somewhere close to 20 to 27% across various heads is what the planned increase expenditure or the allocation towards agriculture is. By bringing in something like a food processing mission or a food subsidy bill, of course, we can definitely have various points wherein we state that, food subsidy bill is not required or, we don't require. But if you look at it, maximum food inflation that we've been facing, if you go back some 40, 50 years back, from an agriculture economy moving to a service economy, I think as and when the share of agriculture has come down, our dependence on agriculture has increased more than anything else. And if we are able to control whatever is the food, requirement in our country and in-house we can meet that, I think inflation to an extent can be taken care. On the infrastructure, I'll cover some of these in deeper detail going forward in the slides. On the infrastructure, he's cut down the cost of borrowing by allowing ECBs for various sectors and including power into it. Inclusive